Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you are a returning viewer. I appreciate you all so much. Today I'm going to be doing the first book video that I've ever done on these channels, and honestly it's something I miss quite a lot. 4+ years ago I had a booktube channel with one of my friends, and now that I have this a little bit lifestyle focused channel where I just want to make videos that I want, I'm going to talk about books periodically because they are something that I love. So over the Christmas holiday, I was fortunate enough to get 2 Barnes & Noble gift cards, and a fortuitous event happened in which Barnes & Noble had a 50% off all hardcover sale. So I went a little bit crazy and I purchased 11 books. Yeah, here they are. So we've got several books here to get through. I'm just going to give you a little rundown of what I have surmised of the plot, and let me know if any of them sound interesting to you in the comments below if you have read any of these books. I think the vast majority of them are new, but not all of them. Also, we've got a little cocooned pushkin in the background there. If any of you are wondering what little animal-shaped blob is, it is in fact an animal. Anyway, first up, we've got Sister Song by Lucy Holland. I love the way this book looks. I know you're not supposed to judge a book by the cover, but I'm not gonna lie, I am still drawn by a beautiful cover every once in a while. So this book has been compared a little bit to Circe by Madeline Miller, which I absolutely loved. And the front little blurb here says that it is a beautiful reimagining of an old British folklore ballad. Sister Song weaves a captivating spell of myth and magic around the reader. So on the inside cover here, it says, in the ancient kingdom of Dumnonia, there is old magic to be found in the whisper of the wind, the roots of the trees, and the curl of the grass. So it's about 3 children, 3 daughters. There's a bunch of mythical things in here, and it says that these 3 siblings entangled in a web of treachery and heartbreak who must fight to forge their own paths. Their story will shape the destiny of Britain. So it sounds like a fun, beautiful story. A lot of people have talked about the kind of lyrical and captivating writing. So I love stuff like this that has a good, compelling plot, but also has elements of myth and magic to it, so we'll see how I like it. Next up here we have The Manningtree Witches by A.K. Blakemore, and this book here, it's a little bit small. It's a little bit small for me. I like big chunky books. This book is set in England in 1643 and has a lot to do with witch trials, if you couldn't guess from the cover. I guess there's a town that does not have a very large male population. A lot of them have died off from various reasons. I believe there was a war at one point, and a witch specter guy, how do they describe him? It's like Witch Inspector General, Witch Finder General arrives, and there's a little bit of a witch hunt in town, but I believe there's a little bit in this story with some women, I don't know, maybe banding together and solving this problem. I'm not sure. It talks about how the Manningtree Witches plunges its reader into the fever and menace of the English witch trials, where suspicion, mistrust, and betrayal run amok as the nation's arrogant male institutions start to realize that the very people they've suppressed for so long may be able to rise up and claim their freedom. So it does end on a little bit of that hopeful note, so it'll be interesting to see how this goes, because so many of those witch hunt stories end in, tragedy and wrongful deaths, so it would be nice if there was a little bit of an uplifting message in this. Next, we've got A Slow Burning Fire by Paula Hawkins, and honestly, I actually don't even know what this book is about, but I read her last 2 books, and so I saw this new one and just put it in the cart and got it. Sight unseen. And it also has a really nice cover. So this is what I'm saying. I'm a sucker. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So this does start off with a murder, as most of her books do. When a young man is found gruesomely murdered in a London houseboat, it triggers questions about the 3 women who knew him. So these 3 separate women have separate connections to the victim. And then it says, when it comes to revenge, even good people might be capable of terrible deeds. How far might any one of them go to find peace? How long can secrets smolder before they explode into flame? So I like what this author does. A lot of the time she takes a scenario and then gives you a bunch of different chapters from different perspectives. So I'm assuming this book is going to be split into POVs from be 3 different women, and then most likely we will come to some type of conclusion about how this man died. Next up, we have Bullet Train by Kotaro Isaka, which I guess was a very well-selling book in Japan, and they recently translated it into English. And I guess the story is good enough that it's going to be a movie soon with Brad Pitt and Joey King. The plot sounds pretty fun. On the back, the blurb says it's a little bit of Tarantino meets the Coen brothers feel to it, which is always fun. And I guess there's a bullet train, one of these super fast moving trains, and there's a suitcase full of cash on it, and there are 5 assassins on the train, and they don't know how they all got there, who hired them, and on the back it says, why are they all on this train, and who will make it to the end of the line. So I'm assuming there's it says there's a lot of humor, a lot of action. It sounds like an interesting and engaging plot, and I'll be happy to see how this one goes. Next up, we have New York, My Village by Uwam Akpan, and it is about a Nigerian editor who gets the chance to come to the United States and do this kind of, not exchange program with a publishing house in New York, but he gets to come over and see how the publishing world works. And it sounds like a great opportunity at first, but slowly he realizes that everything is not as great as it seems. The supposed, good apartment he gets through this deal is an illegal sublet with bug problems, which stop you right there. That's enough for me to just peace out. I guess he also deals with a little bit of a culture shock, people having a bunch of assumptions about him because he's Nigerian. However, it seems like there's a little bit of an uplifting message at the end of this. The little inside flap says, Akpan's prose melds humor, tenderness, and pain to explore the myriad ways that tribalisms define life everywhere, from the villages of Nigeria to the villages within New York City. New York, My Village is a triumph of storytelling and a testament to the life-sustaining power of community across borders and across boroughs. So I believe there's a little bit of, the benefits of getting to know different people from different places, experience their stories, so that we might be better equipped to relate and be compassionate and, step away from some bigoted views people might hold from not actually experiencing what life is like for different people. The next book here is Truth of the Divine by Lindsay Ellis, and I feel like I can't say too much about this book because it is a sequel, so I can't do much without spoiling the first book, but it is set in 2007, so an interesting time during the Bush presidency, and it has to do with aliens, so very sci-fi, very supernatural. An extraterrestrial comes to Earth, and this woman meets him, and it's that, from what I remember of the first book, it's been a little while, they have a little bit of an adventure together. And I didn't realize this is actually a signed copy, which is pretty cool. So now I've got a signed copy here. And I'll be interested to read this soon and see how much of my brain remembers what happened in the first book. So I made a little bit of an error in purchasing this book too, because it is also a sequel. It is A Radical Act of Free Magic by H.G. Perry, and I should have known. When I was looking at this the first time, I looked on the inside flap and I saw this little book right here, and I was like, oh, that looks familiar, and that's because it's the first book in the series. So I guess I had to go buy that before I can read this, but it sounds like it's a mix of historical fiction and also magic. So there's like Napoleon, but there's also an army of the undead, and there's the Haitian uprising, and there's also a vampire war. So when I do eventually purchase the first book and then start reading this series, it'll be interesting to see how the author kind of melds those two things together. Sometimes it can be done, really well, so even if it's fantastical, it still is good, and sometimes it's just absolutely bonkers. So we'll see which way this one goes. Next up, I have 2 YA books. I still like to read some young adult from time to time, and this is An Emotion of Great Delight by Tahira Mafi. And I really love this author. She's written some great young adult books that I've read before, and she's started to write more kind of like contemporary YA fiction, where before she did a little bit more fantasy, action, adventure stuff. So it's nice to see her have a bit of a range in writing, and this book follows a young girl in 2003, I believe. So she's a Muslim girl in the US growing up wearing a hijab. So you have a little bit of the backdrop of how her life is made worse by Islamophobia in the US during this time, and this heightened time of kind of cultural panic after 9/11. But then also her personal life seems to be falling apart. She's having a lot of family problems. She's dealing with a teen heartbreak. And I believe it's called An Emotion of Great Delight because her name is Shadi, and I think that's what her name translates to. So it's a little bit of a juxtaposition there of an emotion of great delight and then this, turbulent turmoil, absolutely heartbreaking time in a young woman's teenage life. The next YA book here is the third in a series. It is Gods and Monsters by Shelby Mahurin. And this series is a little bit controversial because it's the Serpent and Dove series, if you know of that. And so some people really like it. Some people thought it was trash. And I think the first book was better than the second one. So this book is pretty long. It's just over 600 pages. I wasn't super captivated by the second book, but kind of enough to just want to see how the story ends. And since it was 50% off, I thought, why not? If you are into YA fantasy stuff, it follows around this young woman in a fictional world where there is magic. However, there are witches and witch hunters, and of course there's a bit of a star-crossed lover scenario with the young woman who is a witch and then her witch hunter love interest. So while it's definitely a fantasy book, there's some romance going on as well. Okay, second to last, we've got What's Mine and Yours by Naima Coster. And this book is set during the segregation era, or I guess newly integration era in the United States. I believe it's in North Carolina. Yes. So a community in North Carolina is being integrated, and it follows two girls and their mothers who I guess are on opposite sides of this integration debate. Even though the moms are on separate sides of the issue, the daughters become friends. I believe they're in a school play together. And so it follows the lives of these families as they become more intertwined, and this central inciting incident of the school integration and how it affects their lives going forward. And it even mentions into adulthood, so I'm not sure how far this book goes, but it at least starts in school and goes further on. And lastly, here we go. We have The Turnout by Meg Abbott, not Meg Cabot. And this is about three sisters who run a ballet school. I believe they inherit it from their mother, so they're all dancers, and there is some type of accident right before the yearly production of the Nutcracker, which throws off their carefully choreographed world. I'm not sure if there's a little bit of a mystery accident. I'm not sure if there's a little bit of a mystery feel to this, trying to figure out how the accident happened or if that's explained, but this one thing kind of throws all of their lives out of whack. And I believe it uncovers some things that were maybe being suppressed a little bit. So like I said, it stirs things up. It forces probably these sisters to confront each other about different things in their lives. And so I think it's a little bit more of a family drama, but with a huge focus on the subculture of ballet, if that is interesting to you. So those are all of the new books that I've purchased. I haven't started any of them yet because I'm trying to get through some library books before those are due, but I'll start on these soon. And if there are a couple of them that I find particularly good, particularly interesting, I might do a further in-depth review of them. So let me know in the comments below if you would like a review of any of these books, if you've read any of them, if you have any other type of recommendations, anything like that, any feedback I would love. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys all have a fantastic day. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.